Hey everybody, welcome back to the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. I'm your host, Gordo Gambles, and welcome back to the full card breakdown. This time for UFC Vegas 102. We give ourselves a 13-fight slate, all headlined by Rodrigues and Cannonier, and a pretty fun headliner there. It is an interesting Vegas card. I won't lie, some lower level fights at least, but I'm excited to have fights nonetheless and excited to break it down. Last week didn't all exactly go my way, I'll be honest, but we bounced back, got plenty of fights to go, and we still are on a decent run here of DFS work. With that being said, on a card like this that isn't the best one, and some fights are easier than others, I'm gonna see how fast I can do this. Let's see how fast I can break down these fights with giving adequate information and breakdowns, but let's see if I can do it quicker this time. So with all that out of the way, check out Established Run for DFS work, check out CoolBet for betting, hit the like button down below, subscribe to the channel, and let's do this. Get the fight night started with the 9-3 Julia Avila versus the 8-1 Jacqueline Cavalcanti in a fun battle of names. We do have a girl here in Julia Avila who we last saw her return in 2023 after a lengthy layoff, and she just got mauled by Miesha Tate there. Someone who at one point was a pretty good, had a couple decent fights, including a round one knockout of Gina Mazzani there, but a girl who definitely had holes in her game, and that was kind of exposed last time by Miesha Tate. Her ground game not necessarily there. On the feet, she is at a big disadvantage at range, but she does have power. She can box pretty well and close, but that's really it. And at 36 years old, off a big layoff, I don't really know what she brings here. Cavalcanti has been a bit more active, and I don't think she's the best fighter by any means, but she's a pretty big girl for the division, is going to have a pretty significant advantage from range, and is someone who I think, although has issues on the ground, has a decent enough takedown defense, and her striking is definitely up to par for this division. She can win optics from range with power and minutes. So that being said, I have to trust the girl who's 9 years younger here, who's way more active, and someone who's going to have the advantage at range. Just I think Cavalcanti's a better striker. I think Avila can get in close, but Cavalcanti has shown a good takedown defense, and although she's there to be hit, I guess that's Avila's path, but more times than not, I think Cavalcanti outstrikes her to a decision, using her range, using her power, and just being the overall better striker. On DraftKings, though, I don't know if I can get there. 9.5K has never exceeded 80 points. 80 points in a win, 66, 65. Horrible score. Whereas Avila, I guess, is a bit of a punt play. I just don't see her winning too often. So a fade to get the night started, but one where I am picking Cavalcanti. Speaking of sloppy fights, we have the 12-1 Walter Walker versus the 11-7 Dontel Mays. Walter Walker, the brother of Johnny Walker, a very grapple-heavy game plan. A guy will go out there, shoot takedowns, got a heel hook last time. Like, the guy is looking to get you down to the mat because cardio's in question. On the feet, he is there to be hit and can lose optics. He needs to get this fight down to the ground. And he's facing Dontel Mays, a guy who has been taken down pretty easily, has struggled with, let's say, putting it all together, and we have seen him control down on their mat. Yes, he does have power on the feet. Yes, he's a pretty big dude for this division, but it feels like one where there is a big disadvantage. Gaziv was able to control him down the mat. We saw Hamdi Abdelawap control him down on the mat, even though he was gassed out there. So I think Walter Walker has a clear advantage in this game. I think if it was to be extended and there were more striking exchanges, I do favor Dontel Mays in the striking, but Walter seems to want to take down to the ground and be pretty adamant about that, and I do think he can take down Dontel Mays. So am I willing to pay a minus 200 price tag on a sloppy fight? Probably not, but I'm forced to pick a winner. I think Walter Walker has the clearest path to victory, and I do think he can get takedowns and win this fight. At 8.7K on DraftKings, he's kind of intriguing. Scored 111 last time. I do think this one would come with more takedowns. He has that equity to score well. I think he could be a solid play at 8.7, especially in tournaments, whereas Mays is more of that tournament guy himself. I think if he wins, it's going to be an extended striking affair. Kind of like that Machado one where unless we're at 70, so not the best option, but if you're struggling for dogs, a viable play in a low-level heavyweight affair. Give me Walter Walker, though, although I do think there is plenty of variance in this spot. Then we have the 7-1 Elijah Smith versus the 6-8 Vince Morales. A lot of money coming to Morales, and you understand. Elijah Smith is still young. He's 22 years old. He is definitely there to be hit, but a solid wrestler, does have decent hand speed, and has shown a decent durability, or at least he did in his last bout. A guy who's full of action but still improving, whereas he's get this vet in Vince Morales who in the UFC has looked horrible. 2-5 in his last 7. He has been leg kicked and laid on and beaten from range. And I definitely think Vince Morales has more to show, because when you go out to the regional scene, this guy is destroying people. He's getting really cool submission. He's getting knockouts out there too. The guy seems to have an issue putting it all together and struggled taking the step up in competition. So this would be a great evaluation to see where he is, because he's getting a 22-year-old who is super hittable on the feet, whose cardio is in question, and if you can survive the early onslaught, you may have a good chance against. However, with that being said, I still think Vince Morales is not a guy I want to back with too much confidence. He can be taken down, he can lose minutes on range. And although Elijah Smith is young, and that could be to his detriment, I also think he's making improvements, and I think he's going to be more physical in the spot, being the larger fighter. So I'm picking Elijah Smith here. I understand why money's coming in the big dog, but I'm going to take my shot here in the younger fighter. Hopefully he's making improvements. And because of that on DraftKings, I think both sides are viable. Number one, Elijah Smith I do think has wrestling upside. It's path to victory. I think he's going to want to take you down, want to be damaging and a guy who does fight at a pretty good pace. Whereas Vince Morales is a guy who I think, you're getting line value on him. If he's winning, it's probably due to violence later on as Elijah Smith tires. So both are definitely live in this spot, especially Morales 7.1K. But I'm picking Elijah Smith. I think he's a solid option at his price tag of 9.1, and I do think he uses the wrestling to get it done. And then we have the 16-1 Gabriel Bonfim, the 15-3 Chaos Williams. Very interesting one here because we have Gabriel Bonfim, a phenomenal round one finisher and a guy who kind of tires out after that, who is kind of making improvements in his game. We saw him go all 15 last time. He showed that he can win fights and they're not finishes, but it's really his bread and butter. Very good power on the feet, but a phenomenal opportunistic submission game. The guillotine, the transitions on the mat early when he's fresh. He is a very good grappler, and he's facing this Chaos Williams type of fighter who is just a pure power guy. Chaos Williams isn't going to shoot takedowns. He is not going to go out there and win off of minutes on the outside. He lands with power in moments, and he's got solid takedown defense, although we have seen him taken down before. This fight is pretty simple to me. Bonfim, when fresh, I think has the advantages, more paths for him to win, whether it be the grappling, whether it be the better in and out movements on the feet. But I'm not really there with the line because of the flaws Bonfim does have. Bonfim isn't the best minute winner himself. He doesn't really throw the most volume. He doesn't really use a jab too often on the feet, and he has tired out really heavy in the past. So I think this line wide, I think Chaos Williams could definitely put up a fight in this one, and if you're picking based off value, I might pick Chaos Williams, but gun to my head, I do slightly edge Gabriel Bonfim, like minus 140, minus 150 range, just because he does have more paths getting it done. I think he's going to have a wrestling path to victory if he goes to it early, and while fresh, he is a very dangerous fighter, although I do worry for him. Maybe if you're on Chaos, live bet him after one because Gabriel Bonfim does slow down. With that being said, I think Bonfim is the better of the two options. He is a very good finisher, scored 97 against Giles, 119 against Lazez, so he does have finishing optics and does have a wrestling path to victory, whereas although Williams, the line is wide, he has had some fights where he hasn't scored the best. 78 against Baeza in a third round knockout, 74 against Emmelsberger. He needs an early finish, and I don't know how often he's finishing Bonfim that early, so a solid underdog because of his value, because I think he wins more than the line entails, but I do think Bonfim has some wrestling equity at his price tag, and what is a pretty close fight. Speaking of wrestling equity, though, 12-0 Rafael Estevam versus the 11-2 Jesus Aguilar, and this is a quick one to break down, because Rafael Estevam is a super aggressive grappler, a guy who's decent on the feet, but wants to stay down to the mat, very good control. That win over Charles Johnson is aging quite well, but a guy who is super aggressive with it. It's very good transitions down there on the mat as well, and a very, very good scrambler. Whereas Jesus Aguilar is a shorter man with a solid right hook, but a guillotine. All he really has is that guillotine. So it's going to be very interesting to see, can Estevam stay safe? Because he's going to be sticking his head in for these takedowns. Can he avoid the guillotine? Because if he can, he should win this fight at a very high clip. I like his minute winning opportunities. He can definitely win minutes on top position because of how easily Jesus Aguilar is taken down. So that ability to win optics or even get a submission there, as we've seen Aguilar submitted before, is definitely on the table. So Estevam certainly has a path with his grappling. I do expect that to be the largest win condition here, and for that reason I am picking him. He should win this fight as long as he stays safe, but because of the guillotine always being there, that is kind of Jesus Aguilar's win condition. So you got to sprinkle a little bit of him in because of it. On DraftKings though, 9.3K, Estevam is going to have takedowns handed to him. He's going to score very well because of it. His ceiling is there due to the wrestling upside and his control time, and I do expect him to win this fight. However, like I said, Aguilar is not winning without getting that guillotine in my opinion, so score 92 doing it last time at 6.9K is a very live underdog to do it as well. Give me Estevam, but we'll be sprinkling a little bit of Aguilar at GPP. Should be a fun fight and very grappling heavy. And then we have the 20-7 Jared Gordon versus short notice, 24-1 Mashrabon Ruzabayev. Hopefully I said that one right. Brother of Nursultan Ruzabayev, but he's taking this one on just a few days' notice. You look into Ruzabayev a bit, I haven't found the most on him, but what I see from him so far is he's a very good power puncher, kind of like his brother, but he has been taken down, he has fought a low level of competition, and he has been submitted in a couple of these losses. He's a guy who I think, although he's a ton of power on the feet, is kind of like his brother in the way that he can be taken down. He does have holes in his game, and he's very offensively oriented. In a matchup like this against a 36-year-old Jared Gordon, I guess there's a path for him to go out there and land that knockout shot, but this is a huge step up in competition. Jared Gordon is a very solid wrestler and grappler at that in his own right, a guy who is very seasoned on the feet as well with his in and out movement, and I do think more times than not, this step up in competition is going to be too much. You always have the puncher's chance, but I do think the guy who wins more minutes, optics on the feet, is Gordon. The guy better cardio is Gordon, and the guy who is going to have the clearest path to victory on the mat is also going to be Jared Gordon, so I'm going to have to pick him because of that. The short notice nature also adds to that, so give me Jared Gordon. I do think he uses wrestling to get an advantage here, but I'm interested to see how Ruzabayev does in the UFC, especially on short notice. No drafting salaries out yet, but I anticipate playing some Jared Gordon because of that wrestling upside. Ruzabayev is kind of like Aguilar's. I think he needs a finish, so it should be punt play down low, but give me Jared Gordon utilizing that wrestling and getting this win on short notice. Then we have the 17-4 Angela Hill versus the 15-4 Ketlin Souza. Angela Hill still doing it at 40 years old, headlining the prelims, and she has in front of her a very dangerous fighter, but definitely one I think she can beat. Angela Hill is losing to the best of the best, and typically that's because she's being taken down and controlled on there. Because on the feet, she has a ton of volume, is very, very durable, and is able to win optics with her forward pressure and volume, right? She has showed up that takedown defense as well, but she's facing someone who is going to be the better moment winner, in my opinion. I think when it comes down to it, Souza has power. She can finish people. She is very solid on the mat there as well. But you got to look at it from the external factor as well. Is she knocking out Angela Hill? I'm not too sure. I mean, she couldn't finish Mark McMahon. She did finish Rodrigues, but Rodrigues a lot chinier than Hill is. So is she knocking out Hill? I don't think so. Is she taking her down or submitting her all too often? I'm not sure. So at range, I favor Angela Hill. The way better level of competition, the way better optics on the feet, and better volume up there as well. It's hard not to pick her. And although I don't like picking her with this 11-year age difference, with someone as powerful as Souza in front of her, I have to think she uses her vet experience to get another win here. And it's not the prettiest play, but one that I do anticipate coming through, because I do think Angela Hill wins. DraftKings wise though, it's interesting because, we've seen Angela Hill go out there. She scored 109 against Gomes, 104 against Pinheiro, 104 against Ducote. Her volume can allow her to score very, very well. So she's definitely of interest to me at 8.2K. Definitely a solid cash play as well, but doesn't have that same finish equity. It is a step up, so maybe she'll be able to get it. But give me Angela Hill to win this fight. Give me her on DraftKings at 8.2K. And I just think as long as she stays safe, she has the optics to go out here and win a decision. So I'm taking Angela Hill. On the main card, we have the 8-1 Jose Delgado versus the 7-2 Connor Matthews. And this is a really, really fun fight. Jose Delgado making his debut here, 26 years old, just a madman. Very offensive heavy. His mindset is to go forward, throw with fight-ending intention, maybe mix in some takedowns there too, but a guy who is just super aggressive with it. And with his reach and his power, he's actually pretty technical with that forward pressure, but he keeps his foot on his gas, and it's going to make for a great fight, especially because he's facing Connor Matthews. Connor Matthews has been in wars. He is super, super durable, and that's probably his best attribute because he can take a beating and still throw with fight-ending intention. Although Delgado is super aggressive, he does leave openings, so maybe in theory there's a power shot for Matthews, but a lot of money is coming in on the Delgado side just because they see it a similar way to I do. The pressure, the pace, the technicality on the feet. Delgado is a guy who will stalk forward and has the style to beat Connor Matthews, a guy who's there to be hit at range. The guy who just finished last time there as well, so I don't know. I'm on the younger fighter here in Delgado with longer range, better technique from range, the guy who will be pressing forward, and I do think he wins. DraftKings wise though, his line has ballooned up. So at 9K, you're getting a value play on him for sure. With his aggressive style, with his opponent in front of him who's there to be hit, I think there's a ton of DraftKings points to be scored. And that should make him for a great play at 9K. So I do like me some Delgado this week. I do anticipate him to be popular with the way the line is moving, but he should go forward, he should be aggressive, and land a ton of volume. So I do like him at 9K. I'm hopping aboard the hype train. Let's see how he does. Then we have the 10-2 Rodolfo Vieira versus the 12-3 Andre Petroski. Petroski's been kind of an enigma because he's been knocked out in some really weird ways, but against these low-level competition, the Dylan Butkas of the world, he takes them down and mauls them on the mat. He is a very good wrestler with very good top control and a decent submission game. On the feet from range, he's there to be hit. His chin is definitely in question, but he wants to get it to the mat at all means. The issue here is facing Rodolfo Vieira, a phenomenal grappler, a multiple-time champion in jiu-jitsu, someone who is just deadly on the mat. So it really is interesting to see if Petroski is able to go out there and have any success on the mat. So with a guy as credentialed and good at jiu-jitsu as Vieira and as good of a wrestler as Petroski, sometimes we see striking matches, and unfortunately the guy I favor on the feet is Vieira. I think he is more durable than Petroski. The only question is the cardio, although we have those same cardio concerns about someone like Andre Petroski himself too. So I think Vieira has volume and better durability on the feet to win there. And if it does go to the mat at all, I favor Vieira. I think he got a way better submission game. He is one of the best grapplers in the division. And if anyone's going to have success down there, I do think it's him. So give me Vieira to win. I was surprised to see him this big of a favorite, but it makes sense to me. DraftKings-wise, he just scored 114 and 91. So a guy with a ton of upside. There is some bust risk just because if they don't wrestle, if it's a striking affair that goes 15 minutes, then it could definitely not do well. You need some grappling exchange with Vieira or him to find the chin of Petroski, which doesn't happen all the time. So a riskier play with Vieira, but I do think he wins. Flip side of things, in theory, Petroski's a path to victory with wrestling. It's just extremely dangerous. So I don't see him scoring well in a striking affair, and he is definitely super risky with the opportunity to be submitted or knocked out. So not my favorite play in the slate at all. Give me Rodolfo Vieira. Then we have the 20-4 Ismail Bonfim versus the 9-1 Nazim Sadikov. A super fun fight, really, because Bonfim is a phenomenal striker on the feet. Great power, great reads. Can be taken down, controlled in the mat, but typically wants to strike and is pretty good at making his reads in doing so. Sadikov has been in some wars. He does like to go out there and wrestle sometimes, but he can strike. He is there to be hit, but will throw some back. And he, like I said, he's been in some wars, right? That Borchev fight was super fun to watch, but it really showed that he's there to be hit. He's willing to be reckless. And although he will go forward and force exchanges, which could definitely be to his benefit in this fight here, I have to favor Bonfim. I think he's the way better in and out striker, the way better technical striker. And although Sadikov may have a wrestling advantage, the optics Sadikov was showing, being hit big by Elder, being almost finished there by Porsche, like, I think Bonfim is able to make those reads, have more power in the exchanges, and at least fend off the takedowns of Sadikov. I think there's a valid reason for either side, but I do pick the favorite here, and I do think he's just the way better technical striker that I can picture winning the exchanges. DraftKings wise, I think Bonfim could finish him, and I think he could. Sadikov is super tough, but Bonfim does have power. Either way, it's not to really be too trusting of it. Bonfim scored 80 last time too. I think the pace of Sadikov will make this a fun DraftKings play, whether it be the volume that Bonfim is able to land on him or even get a knockout, or the pace of Sadikov, who can wrestle, who can throw a ton of volume, who can look to offset the rhythm of someone like Ismail Bonfim. Either side could score well. I do lean with the Bonfim side of things, but Sadikov is interesting at 7.8 because he would have scored 106 last time in that fun pace fight, scored 82 in a wrestling-based victory over someone like McKinney. So I don't know. I'm picking Bonfim, but either side is live on DraftKings, and I should make for a very, very fun fight. Next up, we have the 13-5 Edmund Shabazian versus the 7-4 Dylan Budka. Edmund Shabazian, one of the biggest hype trains that was derailed by Derek Brunson a few years ago, has kind of settled into wins and losses recently. We all know he is full of potential, phenomenal striking on the feet, can wrestle if he has to as well. But he's run into Derek Brunson, Jack Hermanson, Imavov, Anthony Hernandez. Like, this guy has fought absolute killers who have really preyed on one thing, and that's pretty much his cardio as well, and his maybe lack of experience at a time. Because Edmund is definitely there to be taken down, but on the feet, he is super skilled. Early on, he is super, super powerful and truly just a very, very good fighter. He's facing Dylan Budka, who I would like to call the complete opposite of Edmund Shabazian, and it makes it for a super fun matchup. Budka is not that technical on the feet. He's not powerful. Honestly, with all due respect to Budka, on the feet, he is not that good. Even in wrestling, he is not that good. But what he is persistent. He's got a ton of heart, very, very good cardio, and he will look to take you down at all times. He himself can be taken down and controlled, and I do think that could be a path for Edmund, but in round 3, the guy who I do think might have more juice is Budka. However, that is really all I see going for him here. Edmund's going to be the way better striker early on, and he's going to punish Budka when he enters, who's really there to be hit. And if there wants to be any wrestling exchanges, Edmund's bigger, and I favor him potentially in those wrestling exchanges. We just saw Budka taken down and unable to get up, so I like Edmund Shabazian a big clip here. If he does lose, it would be a real shame because he does have all this in his arsenal. He's a really good fighter, but we'll see. If it makes it to round 3, Budka may be alive, but Edmund's just way better early on, and I do think he's probably able to finish Budka. DraftKings-wise, 9.2K. Edmund scored 118, 94, 115, 103, 130 in his win inside the cage. So a guy that scores very, very well, a ton of finish potential, and a guy with Budka who will go forward and eat damage. So I don't mind Shabazian as a GPP play up top. Should score well. In a loaded range with Esteban, though, I don't know how often I'll be getting to him. I do prefer Esteban over him, but a very solid tournament play indeed. Then we have the 23-8 Calvin Kattar versus the 16-5-1 Youssef Zalal. Zalal has been on an absolute tear, breaking my heart, beating Billy Q, beating Jack Short. Like, the guy is really, really good, and he's really improved. His first in the UFC wasn't really being as aggressive, wasn't really getting those finishes, and now he's rattled off some finishes 3 in a row. And he's looking good. He's walking forward. We know he's got phenomenal wrestling, good back takes, and really improving that striking. That step in knee last time was beautiful, and he is really a guy who's got a pretty well-rounded skill set and is still young to make improvements. However, he's minus 450 over Calvin Kattar, a veteran of the division. Yes, the guy was 36, but the guy's been at the top for a while. A guy who's one of maybe the best boxers we do see in this division. A ton of power, great durability, and great ability to make reads on the feet. The reason why Zalal is such a big favorite is Kattar was just taken down and dismantled by Aljamain Sterling in a pretty embarrassing performance last time. So straight off the rip, yes, the line is wide. But if I had to pick a winner, Zalal's got the path. He can take down Calvin Kattar on the feet. Kattar's there to be hit, and I do favor Kattar at a pretty high clip, but the wrestling, the pace of someone like Zalal, I do think is able to get down Kattar and win this fight. Maybe not minus 500, but definitely at least minus 200 here because he is able to go out there, get those takedowns, and probably control from top position. The same way Sterling was. Zalal's really been on a roll, and they're really trying to push this guy, and this seems like a really good stylistic matchup for him to do so. DraftKings-wise, 9.4K. I originally would say stay away from Zalal. He only has one performance over 100 points, and that was against Jarno Aarons, but takedowns are there. Aljo scored great last time against Kattar because of that, so not a bad play at 9.4. I do favor Esteban's matchup, but a good pivot off of him and Shabazian would be Zalal. I do expect him to be popular, but the wrestling is there, path to victory is there, and he should score very well. So very loaded top range. We'll talk about that in a second here, but I am picking Zalal to win. Should be a fun fight. I do think the line is wide, but you got to pick Zalal. Then the main event, the 17-8 Killa Gorilla versus the 16-5 Gregory Rodrigues. Really fun fight, and two guys who just want to go out there and put on a show. Two of the hardest hitting guys here, but two guys who are definitely there to be hit. 6'3 Gregory Rodrigues. You'd think he's the guy who's been up a weight class here, but Cannonier fought at heavyweight, and he's no stranger to big fighters here like Gregory Rodrigues. Cannonier been at the top for a while. His best attribute was that durability, great forward pressure, very big, very powerful, able to land those big shots, and his cardio is definitely there as well. It does check out. But he's kind of waned a bit recently. Knocked out by Imavov in a fight that, does age well. And then he was just dismantled in later rounds by Kyle Borralho. Another win who is aging a bit well, but still, the chin has kind of seemed to be disappearing. And at almost 41 years old, Jared Cannonier, that is the big concern. And it's not helped by the fact that Gregory Rodrigues is here as well. He is also there to be taken down, so solid wrestlers are able to beat him down there, but is that what Gregory Rodrigues is going to do? You like to think so because of a black belt, but probably not. Gregory Rodrigues wants to go out there and strike. On the feet, he's got a ton of power. Knocked out Tavares, Tallulah, Andraquani, Marquez, Park, a lot of wars, and he is able to go out there and find these finishes. A great heart, great resiliency, great power there as well, and he does make reads, and he hits very, very hard. However, he is there to be hit. We've seen him knocked out a few times. We've seen him dropped a few times as well. And although he's got this black belt, he doesn't often use it. Yes, he got 4 takedowns last time. He has been using it a bit more, but still not consistently enough for me to say he is a full-time grappler. The big issue we have here is we have 2 guys, both who landed with a ton of power, both who are there to be hit. The issue is just we have seen Cannonier go out there, be rocked recently, be finished. And although Rodrigues has been as well, we've also seen him eat a lot of shots. Being 8 years younger and a bit taller, I understand why Rodrigues is the favorite. I'm just so scared to pick him here. Jared Cannonier's been the top for a while. It's gonna be the best opponent that Rodrigues has fought, and I know that deep down he does have these skills. Maybe the age catching up to him, maybe the wars, and maybe a knockout is live, but I do think Cannonier has more volume. I think he'd win optics that way as well, and he is a very solid underdog for me this week. However, gun to my head, if this was -110, -110, Rodrigues has more paths. He has a takedown game. He does have a ton of power in his own right, and he's probably the scarier of the 2 at this point in their career. So I am going to pick Gregory Rodrigues. I'm maybe not because the way the line is at 155, Cannonier is, I think, a solid play for me and one of my favorite plays on DraftKings. Both guys that would be hit, both guys that would be finished, and at 7.6K, I will be playing some Cannonier because he has the 5-round experience and he has the knockout power in his hand. But Rodrigues is also someone I'm playing. Takedown upside, apparently, out of nowhere, and a ton of power, a ton of finish upside on the feet. So should be a great scrap. Gun to my head, I pick Rodrigues. A ton of value on Cannonier, so I might get to him, and a guy who I'm definitely getting to on DraftKings. Super fun fight. Very much looking forward to it, and it should be a banger for a 5-round main event. That's going to do it for me here on the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. Let me quickly run you through my quick picks. We're taking Gregory Rodrigues, Yusuf Zalal, Edmund Shabazian, Ismael Bonfim, Rodolfo Vieira, Jose Delgado, Angela Hill, Jared Gordon, Rafael Esteban, Gabriel Bonfim, Elijah Smith, Walter Walker, and Jacqueline Cavalcanti. I picked all favorites. If I had to pick an underdog, it would either be Cannonier or Chaos Williams this week. I think both are more live in their line and tails. But I'm not going to force underdogs. Gun to my head, that's who I would pick. I guess the bookies got it right this week. DraftKings wise, not really getting to Cavalcanti. So between Zalal, Esteban, Shabazian, Smith, Delgado, it probably goes Delgado, Esteban, Shabazian, Smith, Zalal. Very good top range. If you want to know more, check me out on Established Run there as well. In the mid-range, Vieira's wrestling upside, Walter's wrestling upside, and the 5-round upside of Rodrigues I will be getting to, which just means I need underdogs. If I can afford her, I'll get to Angela Hill at 8.2, but underdog-wise, Sadakov's path to victory scores well. I think Cannonier is my favorite underdog with 5 rounds to work. And line value is on Morales. Hunt-wise, though, my GPP dart throw, Aguilar, his path to victory is a guillotine, and he knows it, so that's something that could score well in an upset. Betting-wise, nothing locked in yet, so make sure to check me out on Twitter at GamblesGordo to see when I do lock something in, and check out CoolBet using code Gordo for a 100% deposit match up to $100. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. I wish you all the best of luck in all your DraftKings betting endeavors, guys, and let's make some money.